If you're familiar with Star Trek, The Next Generation, you remember the Borg. And what did they say? Resistance is futile. Now, is that really true when it comes to the workplace? Wake up, leaders. This is Glenn Guyton, your cultural futurist and keynote speaker, helping you to unlock the power of your people. My goal is to equip you with effective strategies to foster a culture of innovation, reduce workplace stress, and elevate team performance. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, today I want to talk about a topic that I hope hits home with many of you leaders: resistance to new ideas in the workplace. Now, if you've ever put forward a fresh strategy or initiative or tried to roll out some new software, you know that sometimes we're met with a wave of skepticism. So you're not alone in that. But why does this happen? And more importantly, how can you as a leader navigate this challenge? Well, let's start with a few things. I want to share 8 points with you that I think will help you to understand why resistance is so strong in the workplace. And again, if you are a fan of Star Trek and you know the Borg, it says resistance is futile, but it seems like Captain Picard and the rest of the crew, they always find a way to resist, right? And I think it's like that in the workplace. When you're trying to do something new, when you're trying to change things, you're trying to roll out a new program, there is resistance. And you say, hey, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, I can make this happen. You know, I'm going to tell these people what to do. We got a new great fantastic system that we want to roll out. And you know, you find yourself a month, 2 months, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, you've had this wonderful fantastic idea that you and the senior leaders have tried to implement. You've written new policy and procedure manuals, and pretty soon you see people back into their old habits. Now, it's a number of reasons why people fail to assimilate, if we're going to stick with this Star Trek theme. But it's a number of reasons why people fail to get on board with the new program. So let's talk about those things. Hopefully, give you a couple of ideas of how to overcome the resistance and make sure that the resistance truly is futile. Number one, let's just start off with a lack of trust. When trust is missing between leaders and their teams, resistance is almost inevitable. Trust isn't just about being likable, but it's about consistency, transparency, and showing up when it matters. Think about it. If employees feel like they're constantly in the dark or that leadership decisions come out of nowhere, they're naturally going to push back. And so we want to create a culture that promotes transparency and accountability. And that can work wonders when you're trying to roll out something new. When you as a leader openly share your vision and address concerns up front, you're building a bridge. But if your workplace is shrouded in secrecy and inconsistent messaging, then that bridge collapses, and resistance is what you'll find on the other side of that. And you know what's also helpful as we think about this, rolling out something new, it's important that you as a leader know what's going on. Sometimes you have these great, fantastic ideas as senior leaders, but you've forgotten what it's like down in the trenches. You've forgotten the challenges that your line workers and employees have to go through. So before you roll out something new, build trust. Go sit in the workplace for a while. Observe what's happening. Look at the customer interactions. Look at the production line. I don't know what industry you're in, but you as a leader have to have a sense of what's going on before you can just start rolling out stuff willy-nilly. I almost said nilly-willy, but willy-nilly. You can't just start rolling stuff out if you don't have a clue what's going on. Efficiency is great. And I know that you have your MBA, you went to Harvard, you went to Wharton and all those things. But the kids that's working on the assembly line, they know the job better than you. And so if you want to build trust, one of the things that you can do is show up at some of the lowest levels of the organization so people know that you care. There's a wonderful theory that the expertise is, 7 or 8 layers down in the organization. It's not necessarily at the top because you're detached from the day-to-day operations. And so if we want to avoid resistance, show up and let people know, okay, they understand my job. They get me. They feel my pain. I worked in a number of industries where the bosses didn't know what was going on. I worked in the restaurant industry. And of course, when you work in a restaurant industry, they have a book of procedures. This is how you pack this food. This is how you prepare this meal. But none of those things matter when you have a rush, right? You don't have time to go through 12 steps to pack a to-go order at the peak of rush. And if the bosses ever came and packed up a meal to go, they would know that some of the steps that they have are too time consuming and that they lead to a bad customer experience. So you have to know what's going on. Your people have to trust that you know their job, or at least have a sense of what they're going through before you're implementing change. So be mindful of that. Build trust in the organization. Number 2, there's also a fear of change. People just don't like instability. So let's talk about fear. Change is uncomfortable. It's even scary. It shakes up routines and creates uncertainty. Many employees worry that changes might jeopardize their roles or make them obsolete. Think about AI, how people feel about AI now. Think about how some people are feeling about immigrants in the workplace. People don't like change. So it's like walking into a dark room. You can't see where you're going, and that's unsettling, especially if you're my age. I'm 54 years old, and I just happened to be walking around in my own living room in the dark the other day, and my wife had a plant that was sitting out, and the plant was probably, 2 or 3 inches further out in the doorway than it normally is, and I almost broke my neck, right? I almost tripped over. I kicked the plant, luckily I kicked it just right, like I didn't damage my toes or anything. But it was a little unsettling to be my age because, man, I could have fell. I could have, bust my head on the wall or anything. So that's how it is about change. If you don't know what's going on, if you can't see what's next, if you're faced with an obstacle that just comes out of nowhere, you're like, whoo, what's going on? I'm in jeopardy here. I'm in trouble here. So fear of change is a big deal. I mean, just imagine when you're surprised. Maybe you like surprises. Some people don't like surprises. But here's the good news. A culture that embraces innovation and encourages adaptability can ease fear. When change is framed as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat, people start to see light in that dark room. So what did I do? How do I do that in my house? I put in those night lights so I can see what's going on. When I cut off all of the other lights, I put that night light on so now I can see. My path is illuminated. You have to illuminate the path for the people in your workplace. So now on the flip side, if your culture is rigid and values stability over evolution, you'll likely see people clinging to the status quo, kind of like it's a life raft. So we have to have the right balance. People do want stability, but they also have to be willing to change and experiment and try new things. We've talked about that before, if you follow me. And so it's a balance that we have to make. You don't want people fearful of change. You have to have enough predictability and certainty so that people are able to, know what their role is and know their place in the organization. But you also want people to be able to embrace innovation and be adaptable to new things. And part of that is communication, just communicating with people. What's that night light, right? I told you I put a night light in my house, but what's the night light for your organization to help people see, okay, hey, I might not be able to see everything around me, but this is a clear beacon to the direction that I want to head. All right, number three. As we think about overcoming resistance. Number 3 is a perceived lack of involvement or input. Now, no one likes feeling left out, especially when decisions impact your day-to-day work. When employees don't feel heard, they resist. It's a classic case of, we didn't get a say, or why should we buy into this? And so part of this is emphasizing collaboration and being inclusive in decision making. Now, these are game-changing things. When I was in the Air Force, part of what I ran was the process improvement team, right? So we would get ideas in from people and we would reward them. If their idea saved money, they would get a certain percentage of the money that helped improve the organization. So people felt like their voices mattered. And so if your voice matters, you're more likely to support a new idea. You know, when you think it's your idea, it's a great idea. But in a culture where decisions are made from the top down, disconnect grows and so does resistance. And so find a way to get people's involvement before you roll out something new. And one of the things you can do as a leader is just signal, hey, a change is coming. Change is coming. This is what we're thinking about. We're going to experiment on some things. Hey, you know, if you frame things as an experiment, people are more likely to go along with the idea than if you say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're making this change right now. And you have nothing to say about it. But if you say, hey, we're going to experiment, we're going to try some things out. We want to get your feedback. We want to see what you think about these ideas. We're going to do a survey after we implement some of these things. We're going to test it for a short period of time. Get people involved. Get people on board. And really listen to their ideas. Don't just say these things and then don't listen to their ideas, but say, hey, we really value your input. And if you make changes based on that input, or you communicate why you're not going to make these changes based on their input, it really goes a long way to what I said at the beginning, building trust. But part of building trust is getting people's input, making them feel like they are a part of the work that is going on, that's happening in the organization. Now, I want to get through all of these in this first segment, but I'm not going to get through all of these in the first segment. So I'm going to come back in the next video and go through the rest of these. But remember, we want to overcome the challenges of resistance in the workplace. And one of the things that I will share before we go is misalignment with core values and beliefs. We want to make sure that the changes that we have in the organizations align with our core values and the beliefs, the things that we have stated that are a part of who we are as an organization, that are part of our organizational culture. So this is pretty deep now. Now, when a new idea or initiative clashes with what employees believe in or what they think the company stands for, expect pushback. So your changes always have to align with your values, or you need to change your values and let people know why you're changing your values. People want to feel that their work aligns with their values or the stated values of the organization. So it's two pieces there. People have to be comfortable from a personal standpoint and from a professional standpoint with the change. So make sure that you align your new ideas of the organization with the core values that you've stated. And if your culture is clear and consistent, it really becomes easier to connect those dots with your team. But if your values are murky or they keep shifting or you don't really have any clear values, then you'll find yourself constantly swimming upstream. And I think this is the problem with some organizations when they've implemented their diversity, equity, inclusion principles. They weren't tied to any values. They were just doing stuff because it was popular. Don't just do stuff. Don't just do stuff because it's popular. Make sure the things that you do as a business, the things that you spend money on are well connected to your values, your principles, and your workers understand why you're making these changes. Not just because it's popular, but because you want to have a certain impact. Make sure you do those things. Okay, hopefully you've enjoyed our time together today. I'll come back with part 2 in the next video. But just remember, resistance to new ideas is not just about the ideas, but it's about the culture in which they're introduced. So as I close, let's not forget, better leaders get better results. So to every one of you leading the charge for a more supportive and engaging workplace, I leave you with this. Stay bold, stay inspired, and remember that your actions today shape the culture of tomorrow. My name is Glenn Guyton. You all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.